Good morning, people. Like 50 seconds or something, and then the second time I cut off about the 9-10 minute mark. So that's touch annoying realistically, but I'm going to try to figure that out because I think posting weekly updates and midweek updates, right, can help a lot, especially understand what it is that I'm looking for to help you guys better prepare for the week ahead. So right now it's October 14th, Monday, as things stand. And what we got cooking in this market is some news out of SpaceX and fresh new all-time highs as we trade this overnight session into the S&P 500 new highs, and the Nasdaq is slowly falling behind, right? Nasdaq is following, but not to the same degree of expansion that we have seen. So let me just see here. In terms of the news that we have. So the first thing I want to break down is going to be based on SpaceX. There was some news that came out this past week. And then we'll dive into this a little more because we are kicking off the earnings season. And one of the big factors right now is people trying to find the top in this market. People are looking at this market continuously pressed to the upside, and they're like, this is it. This is the all-time high. This is the all-time high. Then a week later, this is now the all-time high. And continuously as the market continues to chug along. So the fact that the market is continuously pressing higher and higher, right, is leaving a lot of people trying to short this, where we're getting more short coverings and short squeezes that propel new all-time highs without any significant pullbacks here for the better buyers to get on board. So right now, I don't think that we're in a position to be calling tops necessarily. I think we're in a position to continuously try to find bids and continue that momentum to the upside. And one of the big factors is tech, right? The lag in tech has been seen everywhere, right? If you haven't been made aware of the lag in tech over the past few weeks, it's time to start noticing, because the overall tech side of things, right, you have, what is it? You have the Mag 7, right? You have the biggest tech names are generally right now lagging behind a lot of the other tech counterparts, especially the overall S&P. So the S&P, Dow Jones are both at all-time highs, but the Nasdaq is far, far behind, right? So the Nasdaq with big tech names, they're kind of just rotating right now, and they're seen as fairly underweight. So we want to see price and big volume start coming into those with the most recent tech earnings. So the market's not necessarily going to dump if tech earnings growth and just earnings growth in general continues to accelerate here. So I think that trying to find tops or trying to call cataclysmic downside in the market in the next few months, I think is just the incorrect path. But tech earnings, right? Tech earnings are coming up, and this is going to be one of those big deciding moments if tech is indeed underweight and they're going to rally into the end of the year, or the market's going to catch down with tech. Now, I think it's the former, where tech is underweight right now, and a lot of people are kind of waiting for earnings to start repositioning into the end of the year, which is going to kind of boost that end of year rally should it come a little more aggressively. So to start the week, we have Netflix earnings, which is a part of some of the larger tech names that comes out on Thursday. And that's going to be the main earnings that comes out in terms of tech this week. And then you have like some chips like ASML that are going to come out. But I think it's the week after and following into that, into the end of this month, where we have the expectation of the larger tech companies that are going to report, which are going to be very much anticipated and closely watched. We had big banks with JP Morgan reporting earnings on, I believe it was last Friday or last Thursday. I'm going to lie to you exactly which day it was, but regardless, JP Morgan and some of the other big banks did report earnings into the end of last week, and they're going to continuously. We have Goldman Sachs at the beginning of this week, along with Morgan Stanley, and so far those bank earnings and financials have been pretty good. So these earnings growths are still telling us that the upside in this market is not yet done, and there's more continuation to be had. So we've just made a new all-time high as I was speaking on the S&P 500. I don't think it's going to stop just there. Best case scenario, this is kind of what I want to talk about last night, is that we have, when we get into an all-time high like this, the best case is that markets just rotate into a sideways movement, realistically, meaning that they create a new balance into these highs before we do look for that expansion higher. So trying to call the top on this, I think, is going to be a tougher decision to make and get away with more so, right, than you realize. So buying dips is kind of where I want to position myself, and also today is a holiday in the States. The S&P, or sorry, the equities and the equity market is not closed, but the bond market is actually closed, and there's extremely low volume coming into this market open. So the market opens in just under 22 minutes time, and we've just traded 99,000 contracts. 99,923 right as of this second contracts on the S&P 500 have traded on this overnight session. That is generally half of at least what I'm looking for. So we're in a very, very low volume type day where the majority of the day can just be kind of slow and choppy / grind to the upside on lower volatility. So all that yapping, let's go into what happened with SpaceX this past weekend, I guess. So Elon, right? Elon Musk's SpaceX caught what is the equivalent of a around 20-story building midair, right? So a huge achievement on its fifth test flight. It's not only launched the Mammoth Starship rocket, but also caught the rocket's super heavy first stage booster as it returned towards the launch pad with a pair of mechanical arms called chopsticks. So the historic engineering feat features the goals of the private spacecraft maker toward its ultimate aim for developing a commercially reusable rocket that could be used to transport cargo and humans to space, thus reducing the cost of launching space vehicles. So for NASA, the test flight bolsters its plans to resume lunar probe, which includes setting up an outpost in the South Pole region and kickstarting its exploration of Mars. So the latest uncrewed test that launched near Boca Chica Beach in South Texas on Sunday was the fifth in the development of SpaceX Starship program starting in April 2023, and the first three test flights ended in flames as the vehicle blew up before it could even perform most of its mission goals. So the fourth test, which happened to be in June in 2024, was a successful one with a super heavy first stage booster and Starship achieving controlled splashdowns. So going ahead, SpaceX can expect to perform tests that aim to bring the Starship back to the landing site to attempt to catch similar to the latest test. And the idea is for Starship and Super Heavy to become fully reusable launch systems, meaning that they would be able to land, refuel, and take off again. Currently, NASA has picked the Starship for its crewed moon mission called Artemis 3, scheduled to launch September 2026. So Elon's been in the news a lot, right? Last week we saw that Tesla unveiled its robo-taxis, which weren't as well perceived by the market. Tesla was down significantly by the end of the week, but now he's in news again. So in terms of today, the markets are closed, or I should say there's a holiday. They're not closed, but there is a holiday in the States, but we do have Fed speakers that are coming on. So we've got, I think Bostic speaks twice today, if I'm not mistaken, or Kashkari, one of those two. I keep getting them confused, but there's a Fed speaker that speaks twice today, then Fed's Waller, which speaks, I think, at the end of the day. Oh, it's Kashkari. Okay, I just saw it. So 9 a.m. pretty much now. Kashkari is talking about the fiscal deficit, monetary policy, and inflation, so that could bring out some movement. Fed's Waller speaks at 3 p.m. Eastern, economic outlook, and then Kashkari comes on again at 5 p.m. when the market's closed, talking about the current state of U.S. monetary policy. So that's pretty much all that we've got in terms of news on this, I guess, holiday day, if you will. Japan's also closed. China's up 2%. London's flat. Paris is down 0.3. Frankfurt is up 0.4. S&P up 0.2. Nasdaq up 0.3 right now. So, or probably a bit more by the time we were looking at this. But I think there's still upside realistically in this market. What I'm looking at on the S&P, I think that the Friday left a very, very low thin auction. The Friday left a very low thin auction in the market, and then right now on the overnight on Sunday is respecting the start of that low thin auction, which is pretty much what's expected in these types of scenarios. And right now, we're trying to make that move above that prior all-time high around that 58-66 area. So realistically, prices would do pretty well to hold a bid through that area now that we're above that, or we have a midpoint around that 60. So long story short, as long as we respect the start of this low volume here from the Friday's session, I think that the upside can and will most likely prevail. It is a pretty deep pullback to get back down into there, so that's not the first expected move that I would like to see. But generally speaking, we could start the development of yet another auction here into these highs, as long as we hold that 58.48 area on the S&P. Generally speaking, I just like to see if we can hold about 10 points lower into that 66.68 from the Friday prior tops to see if we can continue this momentum higher. Otherwise, right, I'm still liking the longs above 58.20. So there are like about 3 areas realistically that could be buyable before 50 or into 58.20 realistically, and there are deeper pullbacks. So the first one that should hold is 58.48, a very strong prior all-time high and distribution area, along with the low volume start from the Friday. And then we come down into that 58, like 35, 37 area, along with 58.20. So I am looking to try to position to the long side. I'm going to watch this very carefully since the volume is extremely low, and we're at all-time highs. So like I do like pullbacks is just going to be more of a precision science, meaning that NASDAQ is probably the more tradable of the bunch. With NASDAQ, I'm expecting this expansion above this 515 area, 510, right? Pullbacks into that area should hold. Both of the delta profiles have been lit up in aggressive blue, meaning aggressive market buy side has taken over on the overnight. So could be just a slow grind higher today with shallow pullbacks. Expect something of the sort rather than getting too active in these markets. So thank you guys for watching. Let's open up our live trading room. I'll see you guys all in there, and then we'll continue the wrap up into the end of the week here on YouTube pre-market. So check out community.tradeproacademy.com, and let's open our live trading room.